The distress beacon screamed across 17 star systems before anyone dared to answer. Commander Aliana Cross stood on the bridge of the UHNS Relentless, her calloused hands gripping the railing as she studied the holographic display. The signal originated from Kepler 442b, a garden world occupied by the Velona species of crystalline beings, known throughout the galaxy for their pacifism and artistic achievements. Now, their entire civilization teetered on the brink of extinction. Translations coming through. Commander Lieutenant James Hawker announced from the communications station, his jaw tight. It's bad. The bridge fell silent as the Velen plea filled the air. Their melodic voices, usually reserved for composing symphonies, now trembled with terror. Pirates from the Kresh Dominion had descended upon their world like locusts. The Velen had no weapons, no defenses, no concept of organized violence. They were artists, philosophers, dreamers, and they were dying by the thousands. How long until the fleet arrives? Aliana asked, her voice cold as the void outside. 72 hours, James replied. But Commander, the Kresh will have stripped the planet clean by then. The Velen don't have 72 hours. Aliana's ice-blue eyes narrowed. Humanity had been the newcomers to the Galactic Council for barely 3 decades. They were still regarded with suspicion, sometimes fear the Deathworlders from Earth. That hellscape of a planet where everything evolved to kill everything else, where gravity crushed, where weather murdered, where even the smallest creatures carried enough venom to drop a Thraxian bull. The other species whispered about humans in the same breath they used for natural disasters. Helm, Aliana said quietly. Calculator jumped to Kepler 442b. Maximum burn, Commander. The helmsman's antennae quivered. He was Lantari, one of the few non-humans willing to serve on a human vessel. That's in violation of Council protocols. We haven't been authorized. I don't recall asking for authorization. Aliana interrupted, her tone sharp enough to cut steel. We have a distress call. We're responding. That's what you do. James met her gaze across the bridge, and a ghost of a smile crossed his scarred face. Just like Proxima, she confirmed. The Relentless was a frigate-class destroyer, small by fleet standards, but crude by 200 of humanity's finest. They'd survived the Proxima incident, where they'd held off an entire Kresh raiding party with nothing but ingenuity, spite, and an alarming willingness to turn their own ship into a weapon if necessary. The other species had been horrified by humanity's tactics. The Kresh had learned to fear them. 20-6 hours later, the Relentless dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. Immediately, the tactical display lit up with hostile contacts. 4 to 7 Kresh vessels, ranging from corvettes to heavy cruisers, all swarming the planet like flies on a carcass. They haven't detected us yet, James reported from Tactical. We're riding the system's heliopause turbulence. Gives us maybe 10 minutes before their sensors cut through the interference. Aliana studied the display with the calculating gaze of a predator. 47 ships against 1. By any reasonable military doctrine, this was suicide, but humans hadn't survived Earth by being reasonable. James, I need you to do something insane, she said. His grin was feral. My favorite kind of order. Crack open our nuclear arsenal. I want every warhead we have refitted with proximity triggers and loaded onto drones. Set them on automated approach. Vectors make it look like debris, sensor ghosts, anything but weapons. Commander, the Lantari helmsman protested. The Council banned nuclear weapons in space warfare. The Council isn't here, Aliana snapped. The Velen are dying right now while the Council debates proper response protocols. I'm not letting another species burn because we were too civilized to get our hands dirty. James was already working, his fingers flying across the console. Drones prepped and launching in 3 minutes. But Commander, even with nukes, we can't take 47 ships. We don't need to take them all, Aliana said, pulling up the enemy formation. We just need to make them think they're fighting something worse than they are. James, once the first warhead detonates, I want you to broadcast on all Kresh frequencies. Tell them who we are. Understanding dawned in James's eyes. You want them scared. I want them terrified. The drones launched silently into the black, small enough to evade active scans, coasting on momentum toward the Kresh fleet. Aliana waited, counting seconds, watching the enemy ships continue their bombardment of the planet below. Cities of crystal spires shattered under particle beams. Entire populations of Velen evaporated in bursts of superheated plasma. Now, Aliana whispered. James triggered the detonation sequence. Space itself seemed to tear open as 17 nuclear warheads detonated simultaneously across the Kresh formation. The electromagnetic pulses cascaded through their ships, frying sensors and communications. 3 corvettes vanished in the initial blasts, their shields overwhelmed by the primitive but devastating weapons. And then James began broadcasting. "Attention crash vessels. This is Lieutenant James Hawker of the United Humanity Naval Service. You are engaging a protected world. You have 60 seconds to begin retreat operations, or we will demonstrate exactly why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders." The crash responded with confused chatter, then laughter. "One human ship, against their entire fleet." Aliana smiled. "Show them what humans do when we're angry." The Relentless surged forward, its fusion drives burning white. It wasn't running away, it was charging, straight into the teeth of the enemy fleet, firing every weapon it had, dumping heat sinks and deploying chaff that scattered sensor returns into 1,000 false contacts. To the crash, already disoriented by the nuclear strikes, it looked like an entire fleet was bearing down on them. James launched another volley of nuclear-tipped missiles. These ones on visible approach vectors, their drives blazing. "Deathworlders don't ask permission," he broadcast. "We don't wait for authorization. We don't care about your dominion or your strength. You hurt people who couldn't fight back. Now you face someone who can." The psychological warfare worked. The crash fleet, already rattled, began breaking formation. When the Relentless rammed a heavy cruiser at full burn using their own ship as a kinetic weapon, and then blasting free with escape pods, the enemy broke entirely. Remaining ships fled into faster-than-light travel, leaving their dead behind. When the Galactic Council fleet finally arrived 3 days later, they found the Relentless in stable orbit around Kepler 442b, heavily damaged but intact. The Velen were saved, the Kresh were gone, and humanity's reputation as the galaxy's most dangerous Deathworlders was permanently cemented. Commander Aliana Cross and Lieutenant James Hawker were court-martialed for violating 14 different council regulations. They were also quietly awarded humanity's highest military honors, because sometimes the galaxy doesn't need protocols, but needs someone willing to answer the call.